We're back. Woo!
We sure are.
I have a bit of music I composed to share with everybody. Oh. Okay, Drusilla.
The go-to show for those in the know about Buffy the Slayer. It's time for a go. I'm really psyched. I'm really amped. Buckle up, people. It's time for Re-Vamped.
Well, I'm having a hard time finding the right adjective. Brilliant. Not quite the word I was searching for. Majestic. Not where my mind was going. Catchy. Actually, it is kind of catchy. Temper. Oh, I wasn't angry. I know. We need to work on that. All hat and no cattle. Moo. Now I'm a bit angry. Good. Rebecca, do you want to hear some behind-the-scenes info? I do. BTS. Minion Juliet is baffling, timid, simpering. We are not doing that again. There we go. A bit more bovine. Okay, behind the scenes. This is the first episode I ever saw of Buffy, and it made me want to be on the show. I never auditioned for the role of Drusilla. I went in for a creative meeting. In the meeting, I did do a bit of Drusilla, which we will get to when we watch School Hard, but I'll save that Drusilla stuff for then. I don't know why you keep saying my name. So, in the meeting, I talked about having seen Out of Mind, Out of Sight, how much I loved the way the show embodied the high school as hell experience, using the dark forces as a metaphor to fulfill that experience to the absolute extremes. I also discussed relating to the character of Marcy. It was just one part of the meeting, but it was an integral part. Everyone in the room got very excited and said that that was exactly what they were doing with the show.
Synopsis. A brief summary or a general survey. Don't quote me, but I just love to compile, collate, posit, and then conclude. I'm summary gal. Yup, that's me.
Drusilla, do you want to take a stab at the synopsis? Oh, yes, please. How do I stab it? With my nails. It's a colloquialism for, can you give the synopsis? Oh, less fun. So, out of mind. After becoming invisible, a sweet young thing attempts to make improvements to Cordelia, Buffy, and other students. Nope. Rebecca? I think maybe you need to help out with the synopsis.
I'd love to. So this is the 11th episode in season 1. And in this episode, an invisible force seems to randomly be attacking people. The gang figures out who each victim has in common. Cordelia.
I wouldn't like it if everyone was invisible. How hard would it be to drain them? To kill them. What are you doing? I'm lunging in case anyone is here. Don't want to miss out on an invisible tasty snack. I think we're safe, Drew. I know I am. Ooh, got one. Wait, really? Tasty Tanya. I'll be back in a bit. So that was creepy.
I may regret asking this. What makes Tanya so tasty?
Dare we ask Drew when she's back?
Yeah, I think we might have to wait on that one.
I think so too. Maybe we'll let Sleeping Dogs Lie or Invisible Tanya's go. Out of Mind was directed by Reza Badi'i. Reza only did this one episode of Buffy. By the way, though, he developed the title montage sequence for a very iconic show. Do you know which one?
No.
The Mary Tyler Moore Show. The hat and everything.
Mm,
Isn't that cool?
that really is.
And he directed more than 430 television episodes from 1963 onward. The high school establishing shot looks epic, but it appears much smaller when you are actually there at this location. This is Mercedes' second episode. Well, it's really her third because she also appears in the unaired pilot, but audiences met her in The Harvest. She was in that memorable scene at the computers. Remember that whole sequence?
Yeah.
Mercedes has a much larger part in this episode. She's Cordy's right-hand gal, and it's the first time we hear her character's name, Harmony. I'm back. Whoa. That's what I often say. Maybe you should find your own bit of business. Whoa is your huge contribution. No, I'm not saying that. Good. Big woo. It's big whoop. And the saying, it's big whoop. I was making a pun. Ugh. Clever. Hardy says all of these disparaging things to Buffy, and Buffy is treated like an outsider. Cordy's nasty gossiping transitions into the classroom lesson, which mirrors this. Miss Miller quotes Shylock from The Merchant of Venice. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? Ooh, pricking, tickles, and revenge. My cup of tea. The lesson is the anger of the outcast in society, which is a summation of this episode. I prefer Hamlet and Macbeth to the Merchant of Venice. I've always felt an affinity with Ophelia and Lady M. That makes sense. Out, damn spot. Out, I say. 1, 2. Why then? 'Tis time to do it. Hell is murky. That's good, Drusilla. Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? Oh, wait, that's a good thing. Boy, you do keep me off balance, Drew. Oh, Rebecca, did you notice what is written on the blackboard in the classroom scene?
No, I didn't.
The phrase is, to every man his cross until he dies and is forgotten, which is a quote from, do you know what?
Mm-mm.
It's from Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot.
Oh.
Yeah, and it essentially means that every person carries their own burdens and struggles throughout their life until they eventually pass away and are no longer remembered by the world. It's very uplifting. And it's perfect for this episode. It's another one of those details that adds to the whole. Cordy's narcissism runs rampant and out of mind. She makes the story about the girl who has the accident her personal tragedy. When Mitch, Cordelia's date, gets beat up, we see the floating bat. The perpetrator is invisible. This ascribes to the invisible man tropes. The invisible man is mad in both senses of the word, angry and crazy. So is Marcy the assailant, who we have yet to meet. Willow and Xander have their shorthand chat about 6th grade, and Buffy is left out. Again, she's the outsider. This episode is so well structured. The point is so well made. It's really set up beautifully. I often felt alone in the company of Daddy and Grandmum. Time and again they would take me for granted and leave me out. That is lonelier than being on your own. I understand that, Drew. I felt the loneliest I ever have around my family. On a happier note, Principal Snyder, Armin's comic timing is great, as always. When Willow brings up the school getting sued to distract him, the way he delivers his line about suing, it's so funny.
It's perfect timing.
It is. It's one of those things that you can watch and then laugh and then watch again and laugh every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy discovers that look is graffitied on the locker. The color palette and the film stock for the flashbacks where we see what Marcy saw and experienced in the past, it's very specific and very effective. When Harmony is pushed downstairs, the stunt is really well done. Did you notice that her backpack is there at the top of the stairs and then it's gone for the tumble?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think they probably did that for safety.
Yeah.
It's really an effective stunt.
It's beautiful when you see someone able to take a fall and at the same point make sure that their face is never turned to camera.
It was perfect. It really feels like it's seamlessly her, other than the backpack, if you're looking at that. And then Armin shows up again with his brilliant comic timing. Giles deduces, since Buffy didn't feel cold when chasing and bumping into the perpetrator, that it's a girl on campus with the ability to become invisible. And Willow is wearing a t-shirt with whom on the front when we're outside the school. Did you notice that?
I did.
Ooh, who is it?
Scooby Dru.
What? No. Scooby Doo. Yeah. What? Not Drew. Do. Do what? Moving right along. Willow says that they could combat that if she's a witch. Drusilla, do you want to say it? Spoiler alert. This is a bit of foreshadowing regarding Willow. Willow's Wiccan ways. Yep. Xander carries the skateboard that was established in his very first scene on Buffy in this episode. Shows up again. The Scooby Gang figure out that it's a grudge and deduce, as you mentioned in the synopsis, that Cordy is the common thread. When Buffy looks through the door at Cordelia being primped and primed for the May Queen ceremony, she's outside. She's a literal outsider. Buffy was the equivalent before, when she was at her old school before she moved, when her life was normal. Now her life is extremely different. The weight she is tasked with is palpable. Watcher Dev says that the flute music in this reminds him of Young Frankenstein.
I love that movie so much.
I do too. It's such a great movie. You can just watch it and laugh every single time.
My dad actually taped over my parents' wedding to record that. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that was important in your house.
Very, very important.
Oh my gosh. It's unexpected when Angel appears. Didn't you think so?
There wasn't a tie-in where I could see him showing up.
Not Angelus, the angel beast. Angel admits that he has feelings for Buffy. Giles lays out that a vampire in love with a slayer is rather poetic. If you're into that kind of thing. Well, Giles is a soppy Susan. Angel comes to try to help with the master. Loathsome. Angel says that the Paragum Codex has been misplaced, not lost. Repugnant. And that he can get it. Vile.
It's really interesting to see this interaction between Giles and Angel alone together, because you definitely get the feeling that Giles trusts him because of his relationship with Buffy, but he still won't completely turn his back to him. He's constantly looking over his shoulder throughout the conversation.
Oh, that's a great observation. I mean, he's read all about him. He knows how dangerous he is. Giles has the book, The Legends of Vishu, in his hands and explains that there's an invisible girl terrorizing the school. And Angel says that looking in the mirror every day and seeing nothing is an overrated pleasure.
I think invisibility is a very heady option. On one hand, we spend our lives yearning for connection and wanting to be seen by others in our professions and in our daily lives. But I think that Angel's comments about not having to look at yourself is not always what it's cracked up to be. It speaks to the fact that our reflections, whether it's in a mirror or seen through other people's eyes, is ultimately our conscience. And if we don't have that reflected back at us, what are we truly capable of?
Ooh, that's interesting. How do you think that manifests, that you need other people's response and reflection as well as self-reflecting to some degree? Or
I think so. I think if you have people in your life that you trust, or just people that are close to you, if you do something out of character, how they respond to that action is going to determine whether you repeat it or not.
a fair ways into the episode, we see Clea Duvall, who plays Marcy Ross, for the very first time. Cordy, Harmony, and their group don't hear what she adds to their conversation, and then Cordy repeats it as if it was her idea.
I thought the way the scene was choreographed was really interesting because they're all together in a group and it seems like Marcy is right in the center. But as the conversation continues, you realize that even though she's right in the middle of everything, she's being completely ignored. And the joke that she's told a couple of times that nobody has responded to ends up being stolen ultimately by Cordelia, and everybody laughs at it. But still, right dead center, and nobody's paying attention to her.
Watcher Dev says that this is a little bit like a Hollywood party.
That sounds about right.
It does, right? Clea is very vulnerable and touching. She's so expressive. I love this idea. It ascribes to the tropes of the Invisible Man films, as we discussed, but here it's motivated by something everyone relates to. Marcy perfectly personifies how so many of us, as young people and beyond, depending how we were raised, have felt like we didn't matter, don't register, aren't seen, and sometimes even want to disappear. This also happens from being bullied and in all other kinds of situations. Clea said that she was 18 or 19 when she shot this. She was nervous and very shy and really related to the character because she's that shy and that introverted. She was very taken with the sensitivity and the emotion in the role. I think when you don't even register, this is the ultimate disdain or insult. It makes you feel worthless. Ghosting is an example of a way that people do this too. The message is loud and clear. You don't even warrant a response. By the way, did you know that the word ghosting was officially added to the Merriam-Webster dictionary in 2017?
Oh, that is so depressing.
I wonder if emojis are going to start getting added in. The May Queen ceremony takes place in the courtyard, and it was clearly a rainy day in California. They didn't do what we call in production a wet down, but the concrete is all wet. And this is rare for Southern California, although in October, November, December, we sometimes get a few weeks of rain. We learn here Marcy's name and that she disappeared 6 months ago, and it all fits in because she was in band and she played the flute. I guess she was well practiced in the Young Frankenstein sheet music. Her makeshift bedroom kind of gives a serial killer vibe. Didn't you feel like that?
Yeah, it's like a trapped animal creating a nest.
Yes, she's living like a rodent. In fact, Giles calls it a nest. And some of the camera work from Marcy's point of view, it really reminded me of the camera work in Jaws.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's used again in the classroom, and then it becomes objective again when invisible Marcy tries to suffocate Miss Miller. It's really an interesting switch between subjective and objective. Listen is inscribed on the chalkboard this time.
The stars have aligned in a tidy row. It's clear as crystal. The hellmouth is opening. I can see it. June 14 and 15. A gathering at Sunnydale High. Hellmouth Con on the Hellmouth. Look at all the people spending time with the cast, creators, pretty costumes, autographs, photo ops with the school locations as a backdrop. Won't you join me? Hearts pounding, blood rushing. It's a weekend I can't wait to sink my teeth into.
Drew, do you want to tell everyone where to get tickets?
Yes. fandomcharities.org.
So, Sire, Rebecca, was Have a Nice Summer what kids wrote in yearbooks in your school when they had nothing to say?
Yeah, you had, have a great summer, good luck next year. The biggest thing was how people decided to sign whatever the comment was. They might put their first name and a heart or a smiley face or, whatever the design that was popular at the time. But if they put their full name, you knew like this person didn't know you and was just being nice and trying to point to, yes, this was who wrote this to you.
And with the drawings, it was more personalized than if it was just with the names, or was the drawing not?
No, the drawings are definitely personalized. So if it was just a straight like have a great summer and then the person's full name underneath it, they didn't know you. They were just being nice.
Willow and Xander both wrote iterations of Have a Nice Summer, and they too don't remember Marcy at all, even though they had 4 classes with her. She was invisible, so she became invisible. This is another episode which preeminently expresses the mission of the show, using the dark forces, the supernatural, to explore the metaphor high school as hell. It's such a potent way to get at what we all experience, to explore universal struggles, to explore the human condition. Giles is definitely Basil exposition again, a la Austin Powers. He discusses that reality is shaped, created by our perception. Kind of what you were talking a little bit about, our perception and then the reflection from other people. People didn't perceive Marcy, and they didn't see her, so she became completely invisible. The flashback where everyone is raising their hands exemplifies that. Everything in this episode connects to the theme. In the class lesson, Cordelia answers that because the story centers on someone, that doesn't mean that they're the hero. Out of Mind is about Marcy, and she definitely is not the hero. Miss Miller doesn't see Marcy's hand up. She completely overrides her. I really admire the sepia tone used here and the slow motion. It's dreamlike, and it's like a waking nightmare.
Yeah, I think that this was another beautiful example of effective use of lighting. Often, whether it's in television or film, music and lighting will tell us how we're supposed to feel about a character and what's about to happen. And in the flashback sequences, everything is so blown out, so much brighter and duller at the same time. And even everything that Marcy's wearing is muted into the background. So she's literally fading in. And it's the overall feeling that she's blending in to the point of invisibility.
So beautifully said. And I love when all the departments are working together, the wardrobe, every aspect of it feeds the narrative and feeds the theme and feeds how we're supposed to feel. It's beautiful. It's also so painful how eager she is to get called on, but she's passed over. I mean, she's inconspicuous, she's imperceptible, and thus she starts to disappear. I mean, who hasn't felt like that?
Being seen or not being seen can kind of at times be the same side of a coin. I had this 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Fitzsimmons, who didn't see me as an individual. Instead, I represented my race to her. And I was the only student of color in most of the school until like my brothers were in later years. And we only had a class of 12 kids. And one day she decided to stop a math lesson to ask, what do they call you people nowadays? And I was so caught off guard in the moment, and everybody's staring at me. And I'm thrilled that a few times in my life, I will think quicker than I feel like my brain doesn't really catch up to my mouth. And I just said, well, I usually go by Rebecca, and then put my head back down.
Oh, good for you.
And I remember that. And this was a woman who she either made people feel completely invisible by ignoring them or ignoring them as an individual. So I always think about her as someone to constantly prove wrong. I don't wish her any ill will, but in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I haven't forgotten about you. And I'm going to continue to just be me and not be representative of whatever label someone decides to put on me.
Well, that's such a testament to you, your character, your strength, the power that you have, that you actually think about that as a motivation to be singularly you even more. And the fact that you were so quick, because I have the opposite thing where in the I always think afterwards what I should have said. And the fact that you were able to just be like, Rebecca is just fantastic.
There are plenty of times where I froze. And when someone puts you in that position, especially when you're younger and the person is in a position of power, 9 times out of 10, I froze and I shrunk. And, you know, those moments stick with you. And that was one opportunity where I got to be a bit of a smart ass back. So I think we all have a little bit of both.
We do. And what I think is hard when you do freeze is that the shame should really be the person who said it, but you take on the shame because you didn't defend yourself in the moment.
Yeah.
And you ingest that often and feel ashamed. And really, it's like no shame should be anywhere near you. It should be on your teacher. What was her name, your horrible teacher?
Diana Fitzsimmons.
All right, Diana Fitzsimmons, if you're out there, Drusilla will be coming for you. Yes, please. Even Giles says that he doesn't recall ever seeing Marcy in the library. Cordelia doesn't recognize her picture and says she's never seen her before, and we know that that's not true. There is a lot of great Cordy dialogue in this episode. She's at the height of her bitchy, narcissistic era. Like Puppet Show, the gang in this one are more detective-y. It's very Scooby Dru. What? No, Scooby Dru. Yeah, what? Not Drew, do. Do what? I'm not doing this again, Drew. Doing what? I'm not doing. Ugh! Never mind.
That's excellent.
Focus. Focus.
Sharp as a kitten's coat.
I'm not talking to you. Cordelia confides in Buffy that one can be surrounded by people and be completely alone, and that she's just in the popular zone. People are so busy agreeing with her that they don't hear a word that she says, but she says that being popular beats being alone by yourself. First there was the torture, then there was the aloneness. I don't know which was worse. Oh, but enough with the melancholy grumpies. Say something funny. No pressure. Well, let's see. When the flute beckons and Giles, Xander, and Willow go down the stairs, Watcher Dev does have a point. It is very much like a sequence in Young Frankenstein when they all go down the stairs. Just when we think that Cordy may be getting more profound and real, she resumes her barbs, some of them knowingly and some unknowingly. The stunt with Cordy's legs hanging out is cool, and the stunt with Buffy falling through the ceiling is superb. When Buffy and Cordelia are tied up, did you think about Kerri? It's very Kerri to me, the movie.
And it also reminded me of Prom Night, which has been done a couple of times, having the prom queen tied up and ready to be dispatched.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Some of the actors in the Jamie Lee Curtis version, they were in their 20s, and I love it. At the time, and even before, like, Welcome Back, Kotter, there was a period where high school students were played by mature-looking actors.
It was very confusing when you finally got to high school and realized, no, we all kind of look like we just got hatched out of an egg.
Right. We all look like children.
I thought this was an excellent little Buffy tip as someone who has a love for accessories, especially jewelry. Watching Buffy use her rings to slowly free herself from the rope, it kind of lets us all know that maybe a good accessory is always important to have just in case you get kidnapped.
Yeah, it's not just vanity.
No. I was wondering, from your perspective, Juliet, how hard is it to try and act in a scene where you're also doing stunts?
Oh, that's a great question. I had amazing stunt people, Michelle Seebeck and Jennifer Badger. Early on, I recommended Michelle, who had doubled me on a movie I did with Whoopi Goldberg. Michelle and Jennifer did most of the heavy lifting. For the parts I did, which could be dangerous, it is always important to learn the moves and go through it by the numbers very slowly over and over and over. And then you speed it up bit by bit. But the thing with stunts is you always do the moves a tad slower than you would in real life so that the camera and the audience can register the movement. As far as stunts impacting the acting, I find usually that the action is fueling the emotions so that they go hand in hand. Sometimes, though, you really have to insist on more rehearsal time because they want to start shooting, but shooting stunts before you feel fully equipped paves the way to getting hurt.
Do you think that having your background in dance really helped you with stunt work?
Yeah, it helps with stunt work and actually with all film and TV acting because hitting marks, all that stuff. So for people that don't know, there's often they'll put X's, or if it's going to show a little piece, or you have to line up and figure out, what in your vision you line up with so that the camera, you'll be in focus. Scenes can have very many marks. And so you basically have to go from, sometimes there aren't a lot, but if there are a lot of different places that you're moving, you have to hit all of those marks. And I think being a dancer and being used to working your body, you could do that and not focus on it and keep your acting work really fluid. And so I have found that so very helpful, as well as with stunts, because you just have that muscle memory. To be continued. And now we're going to reveal our next contenders for the Battle of the Uber Buffy fans, the ultimate trivia contest. Drum roll, please.
My name is Valerie, and I am from Montreal. I first started watching Buffy when I was 8 years old. Buffy and Angel have meant so much to me. I've been rewatching both shows maybe 2 to 3 times every year, so if my calculations are correct, I am nearing my 70th rewatch.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I live in McMinnville, Oregon. I've been watching Buffy since I was 13 when it first started airing, and I would record the episodes so I could rewatch it during the off-season. I even went as far as purchasing the British DVDs so that I could listen to the music that's different and watch the different cuts. I stopped counting my rewatches at about 80.
The demand has been overwhelming. All slots are now filled, but we will be announcing 2 contenders each week till everyone is announced.
Let's get ready to Buffy!
Re-Vamped E's, please correspond with me on Twitter at Juliet Landau or on Instagram at Juliet_Landau and on the Fans of Juliet Landau Facebook group or Juliet Landau official Facebook page. You can also join up with all our Re-Vamped E's on Patreon. There are all kinds of tiers and really exciting stuff. Our Patreon peeps to be read in the credits: Dave Hall, Timothy Kendall, Danielle Harbour, Louise Brennan, and Brandon Key. It makes all the difference because we cannot keep making the show without you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week when we do it again. Do it again. Until next time, rewatch, revamp, reinvent, and be remarkable you.